Over the past year, I've spent over $1 million on meta ads across multiple different businesses, funnels, offers, and industries. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that most people are focusing on the wrong things. They'll obsess over campaign settings, targeting, whether they should use ABO or CBO for their campaign, and they obsess over the wrong metrics on their campaign that don't actually move the needle. Meanwhile, they're ignoring the things that actually determine whether a campaign is going to be profitable or not. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down everything that I've learned after spending over $1 million this year on meta ads, the mistakes I made, what I do differently today, and the things that actually matter if you want to run a profitable campaign. So let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to break this into 6 different sections. And section 1 is that the math has to work first. So before you film a single ad, build a funnel, or launch a campaign, you need to understand the basic economics of your business. And funny enough, a lot of people skip over this, but I'm going to break this down for you right here. So the first thing we'll need to know is, on average, how much money are people spending with your business? So we'll call this average LTV. LTV meaning lifetime value. So if you're running an offer and you're just collecting a one-time upfront payment for, let's just say, $5,000, obviously in this case, your LTV is going to be $5,000. Now, if you're running an agency model, on the other hand, and say you're charging, let's say, $3K per month, and the average person stays 5 months, then your LTV is $15K, okay? Simple. Now, this is important to know because if you're running business A compared to business B right here, business A cannot afford to spend as much money to acquire a customer as business B can, because business B is getting 3 times the amount of revenue from each customer. So if each one of these businesses has a goal of having a 5x ROAS, then business A can afford to spend $1,000 cost to acquire a customer, while business B, on the other hand, can afford to spend $3K cost to acquire a customer. Now, these are just the basics. These are very simple numbers. Now, we'll just stick with business A for this case here. Okay, so we know that we can spend $1,000 to acquire one customer, so we can further break that down by looking at these other metrics. If you're running a 25% close rate, then you'll know that each live call, then you'll know that you can afford to pay $250 cost per live call. And if you have a 50% show rate, then you're booking these calls for essentially $125, assuming they're qualified. Now, there's a million other sub-metrics below these and different KPIs that you'll need to be tracking to make sure you're hitting these numbers. But big picture, these numbers will tell you how your business is doing. And if you're watching this video, you should be pretty familiar with what all this means, but it's important to set this as a baseline before we go to the next step. For section 2, we're going to be talking about how the messaging in your ad matters more than the campaign settings and how you set up your campaign. And this is where a lot of people massively overcomplicate running meta ads. People spend way too much time and worry way too much about their campaign structure or their optimization settings or their targeting or even their pixel setup. And to be clear, those things do matter, but they don't matter nearly as much as your message. If you have bad ads and bad messaging, none of this other stuff matters. So we want to put majority of our time focusing on the one thing that'll produce most of our result. Because obviously the market doesn't care about how your campaign is structured. The people watching your ad only care if that ad gets their attention and actually solves a problem that they have. So if you're currently running a campaign right now and something's not working correctly, sure, tweaking certain things with the campaign might help a little bit, but if you're not profitable at all, it's 99% chance that your creatives are just not good enough and you haven't tested enough creative. So before you go and change anything else about your ad campaign, you need to make more creatives and test more creatives. Because a campaign that has really good ads and really good messaging, even if the campaign isn't properly set up or it's not fully optimized, that campaign will almost always outperform a campaign that is perfectly set up but has bad ads and bad messaging inside of it. Which leads me to my third point, section 3. And this is, you need to stop testing the same angles over and over. You need diversity. One of the biggest mistakes I see is people will make ads and maybe they'll test 5 or 10 different ads, but all of the ads are basically saying the same thing. They're not hitting any different angles. Even if you're messing with like the colors of the ads or the hooks or the B-roll footage, it's all the same message, and it's not really testing your ads. Real testing is hitting different angles. So let's say you're running a business or an offer that teaches people how to do sales, for example. One ad could hit a specific angle where it's talking about how you can use sales to quit your 9-to-5 and work remotely. That could be one angle. And another angle could be talking to somebody that has already started sales but is leaving money on the table because their skills aren't where they need to be. So the core service stays the same. You're just hitting different benefits and pain points on your offer that will appeal differently to different people. You need to think about what your target audience actually wants. When I first started running ads, I was only concerned with, okay, can I get people on the phone that have money and will pay me? But if you look at ads selfishly and don't consider, okay, what are my target audience? What are they actually trying to achieve? by working with a business like mine, you need to take that into account if you want to succeed. So I'd go and I list out all the ways that I could potentially benefit the people that are my target audience. I list those things out, pick the best ones, and test all different ad angles. And the more different each angle can be from the other angles, the better as well. But if all your ads are essentially saying the same thing, then you're not learning anything at all, and you're just wasting money on your campaign. Now, the next thing you'll talk about is how many ads you should be testing and how much you should be spending on these ads to test. The first thing you'll want to know is your budget that you're spending on ads. That's the first thing we'll need to know. So let's just assume our budget is $100 per day, which is $3,000 per month. The general rule of thumb that I like to use when I'm testing ads is that you should be able to spend minimum $20 per ad that you're testing. So if we have $100 per day to spend on ads and each ad has to get $20, we know that we can test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ads. So like I said earlier, the more ads you can test, the better. And obviously, the more you can spend, the more ads you can test at once. But that being said, even if you're only spending $100 per day, you still want to test as many ads as possible. So we want to rule out, okay, which one of these ads is performing and which one of these ads is not performing as fast as possible. So we can take the ads that are not performing and replace them with new ads to test. So let's take a look down here and just say, let's say ad 1 is getting leads for $40, ad 2 is getting leads for $20, ad 3 is getting leads for $30, ad 4 is getting leads for $35, and ad 5 is getting leads for $50. Okay, now it's pretty easy to look at this here and tell that obviously ad number 2 is getting the lowest cost per lead. And for this scenario, we're just going to imagine that all the leads that are coming in are the same quality. Some of these ads, even though you're paying a little bit more, might be getting higher intent buyers. But for the sake of this, we'll just assume that all of these ads are producing leads that are all about the same quality. This $20 one here is performing the best. Definitely keep that one. And then we have these two right here, which are performing relatively close to KPI, which is $30. And then after these two right here, we'll notice that this one and this one are a bit outside of KPI. Now, before we cut anything, another general rule of thumb is that before you cut any ads or make any major judgments on an ad, you want to spend at least 3 times KPI for that ad. So if we were trying to get, let's just say, $30 cost per lead, we'd want to spend at least $90 on each one of these ads before determining, okay, is this ad bad or is this ad good? Now, in addition to your cost per lead here or your cost per result, the next thing I would look at is your cost per click. So this should be a secondary metric that should be able to validate if this ad is performing well or not. And obviously, and depending on your offer and who you're targeting, your cost per lead can be anywhere from, let's just say, $3 up to $7 or $8. If it's way above $10, it's probably a good time to cut the ad unless somehow this number up here, the cost per result, is still healthy. But the cost per click is a good leading indicator before you look at the cost per result, which in this case is your cost per lead. Now, I know we just got into the specifics of the different metrics, which I didn't really mean to get into, but the main point I want to make is that you should be spending bare minimum $20 per ad to make sure they're getting tested. And once you have a higher budget to spend on ads, I would encourage that you're running at least 20 to 30 ads at once to find winners as fast as possible and be able to scale your campaign and have enough diversity within that campaign to scale. So for the next section, we're going to talk about metrics. And I know we just talked about metrics a second ago, but I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that section now. So when you open up your ads manager, you're going to see your ads on the side here, ad 1, ad 2, ad 3. It'll look something like this. And the main metrics that we're going to look at are cost per result, CPM, click-through rate, cost per click, and I also like cost per landing page view. Now, if I had to rank these in order of how important they are for your campaign being profitable and which ones you should pay attention to the most, number 1 is going to be your cost per result. Number 2 is going to be your cost per landing page view. Number 3 is going to be your cost per click. Number 4 is your click-through rate, and number 5 is your CPM. So essentially what all these mean is your cost per result is basically just your cost per result, simple as that. So if you're running a call funnel, it's your cost per booked call. If you're running a webinar funnel and getting people to sign up for your webinar, then it's your cost per webinar sign up. Your CPM right here is going to be how much it costs for your ad to be shown to 1,000 people and to get 1,000 impressions on your ad. Your click-through rate here is out of all the people that saw your ad, what percentage of those people actually stopped and clicked on your ad. Your cost per click is pretty self-explanatory. It's the cost per somebody clicking on your ad. And your cost per landing page view is the cost to get somebody to view your landing page. Now, you might think that your cost per click and your cost per landing page view should be roughly the same. But in some cases, if you have really low intent, low quality leads, people will click on your ad and just click right out of it and not even take the time to view your landing page. So if you have a good cost per click, but your cost per landing page view is 2 or 3 times what your cost per click is, that's a good sign that your ads are getting people to click on it, but they're extremely low intent people clicking on your ads, and that's not what you want. So to get into some specific KPIs here, what I'd shoot for, obviously the cost per result is going to be different depending on what your offer is and what you're optimizing for. A good cost per result, if you're running a book a call funnel, I'd say is anywhere from $100 to $150. Your CPM, I'm not going to put a number on that since it's like the least important metric. You can have a really bad CPM, but it can be made up for with a good CTR. Generally, depending on your audience and your offer, it can be anywhere from $40 up to 100 or even more than 100 in some cases. It just depends on what your audience is and what your offer is. So I wouldn't, obsess over that too much. Your click-through rate, minimum, I'd say you'd want to be 1.5% or higher. So at least 1.5% of the people seeing your ads are clicking on them. Above 2% is ideal. Like I said, your cost per click can be anywhere from $2.50 up to $7 or $8, depending on, again, what your offer is. And then your cost per landing page view should be within 20% of your cost per click. So if it's more than 20% higher than your cost per click, probably means that you're getting low intent people coming through your funnel, or your landing page is taking a really long time to load. And a lot of people overlook this metric, but I found it to be very important. For the last section here is, where do you get your ideas to run ads? So what I would recommend is looking at competitors within your space who have a proven offer and proven messaging, and look at what their ads. And I wouldn't just look at one person. I'd probably look at bare minimum 3 other people in your industry that are running ads and are hitting different angles. Now, that being said, I would highly discourage anyone from directly copying somebody else's messaging or ads. I've tried to do it myself before, and it was a bad mistake. And one, I think it's borderline copyright, it's illegal. And number 2, the same messaging that somebody else is using most likely will not work for your ad account and your offer. So what I would do is look at least 3, 4, 5 different competitors, take all of their best angles or take ideas from all of their ads libraries, put them together on a list, and just start using those as ideas for different angles that you could pitch for your offer. Another reason why I wouldn't copy somebody specifically is that an ad that you're seeing that they're running, you're not going to know if it's a direct response ad or if it's used as some part of retargeting campaign or a nurturing campaign. You can never really know just by looking at their ad account. So you might be copying something off of their ad library that you think is going to get people to convert, but they're actually using it to nurture their audience, not to get people to book and sign up for whatever they're selling. But like I said, compile a list of ideas based on what other people are doing. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. Take what's working, put your own spin on it, and run those as ads. Okay, so to wrap this up, what I would do if I was starting fresh today running ads is, 1, I would take my lifetime value of my average customer, like I said, determine how much I can afford to spend to get one customer in the door of my business. You can reverse engineer it, you can do the math and determine what that number is. So from there, you're going to research what other ads are working for competitors in your industry. You're going to take those ideas, make a list of them, pick the best ones, and then turn them into ads. The more you can afford to spend on meta ads, the faster you'll be able to test different ads. So I'd start, like I said, at each ad spending bare minimum $20 per day. Test as many as possible, swap out the ones that aren't working, and continue to test until you get your KPIs to fit that math model that you made earlier. So you're going to track the metrics, you're going to look at your ads manager, replace them with new ads, keep the winners running, and then just repeat this process over and over. Now, this was specifically about ads. I didn't really go into funnel metrics, funnel diagnostics, anything like that. I'll talk about that in a later video. This is specifically how I would go about starting running ads for basically any offer. Because advertising is not about finding one winning ad. It's about building a system that consistently finds winners and is continuously finding winners over and over. And if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more content about paid acquisition, running ads, building offers, building funnels, and scaling businesses online, and this is all based on real dollars spent on ads and real businesses that I've run in the past and I'm currently running, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to start posting a lot more videos regarding these things. And last thing, if you have any questions or topics you want to see covered in the next few videos, put them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.